Alright. Hey everyone, this is Nitro. So, I have hit Langrisser rank this weekend. And with that, I thought I would do a final stream of reviewing my matches this week so that we can see just exactly how well I did, and for everyone to just get a feel for how the matches go. Now, before I begin, I'm just going to test the chat to make sure that the messages do show up. Great. They do. So, without any further ado, since messages do show up in chat properly, let's get started with this stream. So today I'm just going to go over some of the recent matches, like the matches that I had this weekend. And I think I did 10 matches in total. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 matches actually. I'm not going to go over all of them. Some of them were just me playing terribly. But yeah, so hopefully, let's say 7 matches. Maybe I'll get through it in an hour or so. Right? And with all of these matches, I pretty much settled with my AoE team that I'm using. So you can pretty much just see it's predominantly AoE attackers with tanks and healers. So there's Bozo, there is Licorice, there is Hobo, there is Kruger, Vincent, Ares, Florentia, Himiko, and Gizarof. Right? The only single target strikers there are, you can say it's pretty much just, I guess, Lollygess. Right? I mean, Bernhardt can single target strike, he can also AoE. Ares is the same thing, right? He can single target strike and AoE. But everyone else is pretty much AoE attackers, or else, yeah. And this worked pretty well overall. I removed characters like Elwyn, SP Elwyn. I removed my Illustrial. I removed most of my single target strikers. Like even Mario, who is at 6 stars, I removed her in favor of adding an extra AoE attacker. But this worked out pretty well. In fact, my real struggle has been, can I fit in Arianrod, for example, and can I maybe fit in Reen into this box? But I haven't been able to figure that out. Nonetheless, running this current box did get me into Langrisser rank, so it is what it is. I may very well analyze this again in the future to see if there's any way for me to fit in other AoE attackers and so on. But for now, this was the box that I used to successfully Langrisser rank. It's not ideal. I even don't feel this box is ideal yet, but it worked. So, with all of that mentioned and highlighted, why don't I just start going over some of these videos? So let's start with this one, this AoE win battle. Hello there, Shadow Light. So for this first battle, I faced off against a player who had a much more single target oriented box. Actually, this is more of a hybrid box, which I was feeling that hybrid boxes don't work well in the current meta. But you can kind of see that there is Hobo, there is Arianrod, there is Bozo, right, for 3 AoE attackers, and the rest are single target strikers. Yulia, Illustrial, SP Elwyn, Noemi, Zerda, Deedlit, Ares can single target strike and so on. So just having a few AoE attackers doesn't really make sense in my opinion. It just doesn't mesh well. Right? But that was my opponent's box. For what it's worth, this person is or has the season 7, I guess, avatar frame. So with this box, Roaring was able to get into Langrisser rank for what it's worth. But I just don't feel it works out that well. So, the pick ban phase is mostly just me. My strategy has always been to first ban Rosenseal now. Right? With an AoE box, I cannot afford to face Rosenseal, who who prevents debuffs, whose mass crystal heal will provide healing for every time the character takes damage, including from AoEs. Right? So it's kind of like Juggler. Except it has the additional effect of preventing debuffs. So between facing off against Rosenseal or Juggler, I'd much rather face Juggler than Rosenseal. So yeah, here I start off with picking Hilda. So I only have 2 tanks in my box, so I tend to pick a tank at the start. And yeah, the Vincent ban right away was a bit of a surprise. After that, he got rid of Himiko and Rosenseal. So Roaring is kind of getting rid of the brand new characters, if you will. And opponent also plays Hilda. Right. So I get rid of Juggler and Leanna, which simplifies things a lot for my AoE attack team. Right. So I start off with Florentia now. So I lose Hobo and Gizarof. Next. Opponent plays Ares. Alright. So I'll get rid of his Illustrial and Ariane Rod. And I choose to play my Juggler now. Right? So I'm a little bit worried about this Ares with the AoE, right? Wind Whisper, taking out Florentia, so I decided to play Juggler. So now I lose Lolly, Jess, and Leanna. Right? And he plays Bozel. So I get rid of his Zerda, as well as SP Elwyn. And I play my Ares. A very, very late pick Ares. But this still leaves me with 3 AoEs so far. And Florentia is a healer too. So Licorice and Kruger are now banned. And you can see my final 2 characters are Bernhardt or Gizarof. And both of these are still AoE attackers. Right? So that's why I concentrated my box into AoEs. With this kind of pick ban, I was able to have pretty much everyone except for Hilda as AoE attackers. So Roaring plays Hobo, and I get rid of his Noemi and Deedlit now, playing my Bernhardt, and finally Roaring plays Julia. So pretty much, Hobo will buff up both Julia and Bozel. Ares is buffed by his Hilda. On my side, I actually have 4 Empire characters. Okay, and then Juggler has no faction buff, which is fine. So the end result is, because all my characters are Empire, I can choose to just have Bernhardt bring his Empire faction buff, Overlord's Ambition. So Hilda was able to bring double guard skill with Ram. Right? Ares is my Wind Whisper version. Juggler has Sacred Beast Him. I actually brought Beast Shock here rather than his second AoE. That's fine too. It's sometimes hard to decide which one to bring, to be fair. And then Florentia, of course, will benefit, and Florentia's skills don't change. So here, Bernhardt is bringing Rupture with Sword Dance. So let's just quickly plow through the first turn. Never really any action in the first turn. Both sides are just maneuvering. Starting off with Bernhardt's faction buff after moving Hilda, because that way Florentia will benefit from it, right? Getting additional stacks of her battle strategies talent. Now this one was interesting because he is hovering back, like far back, playing it very, very safe. Right? And truthfully, playing to get into Langrisser rank is often more about not making mistakes than it is about anything else. So he is playing defensive, trying to avoid mistakes, waiting for me to make the mistake before he crushes me. That is his basic strategy. Right? So I am going to avoid trying to make mistakes here as well. So I'm playing this very, very carefully. Slow playing it. I'm continually, although I didn't have to pay attention here, I'm continually counting the tiles of how far Ares can go. Right? I have to be very careful with my Florentia placement. Right? The key is to keep Florentia alive and not have Ares take her down. But interestingly enough, Ares did not bring Wind Whisper, so I actually don't have to worry about that as much. Meanwhile, maneuvering forward, Bernhardt seizes this position where, one thing about Bernhardt is, Bernhardt with his faction buff gets an additional movement, right? Mobility increased by 1. And I also have Apex Boots on him, so he has a total of 5 movement. So a lot of movement on this Bernhardt. He has like cavalry style movement, right? And then his Sword Dance would have 2 ring range, so pretty convenient. Wave Whisper is launched at my Bernhardt, damaging him. And I choose here to rush my Juggler. So, now, I had to make that move because of Bozal. So, he went full defensive. This Bozal has Swordsmith Metal. Right? Much more magic defense than Int, but absolute trash for mobility. So, very, very slow paced Bozal. So, if this was a 4 movement Bozal, I would not have been able to, just easily move at a range like that. But his Bozal lets me. So, he's continuing to hover back now that I moved my Bernhardt a little bit back. And I'm just going to slow play this, really seeing no need to rush. Right? I'm just maneuvering all my characters forward, getting ready to attack, but I haven't had to yet. And now that he moved his Yulia, here comes the assault. So, starting off with a Juggler, Sacred Beast him, damaging both Yulia and Sage of the Trees. I am expecting Ares to come in, probably take me down. But nope. First, he starts off with the Weakening Strike from his Hobo. And due to being on the Dazzling Light tile, it was able to move the tile back. And that also granted his Yulia a +3 mobility buff. So, a whole bunch of things that did not favor me. But so be it. Second AoE strike from Florentia. And then I cast Rush onto my Bernhardt. So here is an interesting thing that people might not have realized. The Rush skill mobility buff is based upon your base movement. Bernhardt had 5 movement, right? But his base movement is actually 3. So because it's 3, and Rush applies mobility based on 5 minus your base movement, so he still got the 2 additional mobility. So this increased Bernhardt to 7 mobility. The other character who can really benefit from this is Bozal with Speed Boots. Alright, Bozal with Speed Boots would have 4 movement. He would also get +2 to 6 movement. So it's based on your base mobility, not your current mobility. So that's why Bernhardt with Florentia can get a 7 movement buff. Bozal can get up to 6 movement. Anyone who has a low base mobility can benefit. It's characters who have 5 base mobility that would get nothing from Rush. So Bernhardt now has 7 movement. Okay. So can charge all the way in now. Florentia is seriously overpowered with any character who has a 3 base mobility and mobility buffs. Now this was interesting. I really didn't expect this, but he chose to have Ares strike by Hilda. Right? So he is very much, and the reason for this was clearly to stop me from attacking. Right? But the 7 movement Bernhardt did not care, right? Just ran all the way down and crushed him anyways. So going back a little bit. So he retreats down, right? Bernhardt got placed just about as far back as he can go. But even if he got placed where Florentia is, the 7 mobility would have been enough to reach this Ares anyways. So he ended up making the first mistake. And he had to because of where I was positioned. I was fully ready to assault. Right? If he didn't do that, Bernhardt could have sword dance smashed his whole party. So since I can't sword dance, that's okay. I will just have my Bernhardt one-shot Ares. And next, time to send my Ares in and toss out the AoE. So the Wind Whisper was enough to take down 1 life on Hobo, right? Couldn't quite kill Yulia, but that's okay because I act first. This is the key point. As player 1, I act first. He still has to move Hilda, and after he moves Hilda is when I get to strike. And that means Bernhardt could come charging up in AoE, if I so wish. Didn't need to. I just had Ares attack and kill off Yulia because he did not move his Hilda. And that was an easy kill. It was 5e3. He just gave up there. The alternate thing was me having Bernhardt move up, launch out an AoE, and then crush both Yulia as well as Hobo, right? Forcing a 5e2. Either way, just being patient, forcing him to attack me, and then crushing him. That was the strategy. Right? He was trying to do the same thing, but due to lack of mobility, even less mobility in my party, I was able to outmaneuver him and force him to act first. And that was the first battle. You know. Mobility still wins a lot of these fights, for sure. And his slower party inherently has a disadvantage to my slightly faster one, due to Florentia. Not saying, as I said, like, that's one big reason why I'm trying to look into trying to fit in maybe Akaya, for example. Right? I need more mobility buffs. You know. If I can get more mobility buffs for this party, that would be great. But then the question is, how do you fit that in? Alright, so that was the first battle. Next then, let's jump into a fight with Gizarof this time around. Yeah. So this one, first ban is always Rosenseal. So there was the ban right away. But for this battle, Jagger, also another Langrisser rank player already. You know, I was not Langrisser rank at this point, but I do find once you're in the 1800 range, you're always facing the Langrisser rank players. So he is running Empire box primarily, right? Empire and Reincarnation. There is Patsier, right? I guess Empire, Reincarnation, Dark, I suppose. Right? There's Patsier and Licorice, you know, and Bozel. There is Empire because Hein is part of Empire. There is also Kruger, so that's Dark as well. There is Mariel though. So, and then there's also Sophia, which is an interesting choice. So a lot of healers actually. Florentia, Liana, Sophia, and Rosenseal. Mariel is another healer. Licorice is another healer, really. Right? So almost too many healers and not enough damage dealers is my impression of this box. So yeah. But once again, he got Langrisser rank with this box. So very often you don't need perfect boxes to get Langrisser rank. So both sides ban Rosenseal first. He plays his Hilda. I ban Juggler and Bernhardt. Once again, I mean, pretty much the same bans as last game, more or less. Get rid of Juggler, get rid of Rosenseal, which really enables my AoE team. I'm consistently surprised people don't play, you know, seeing my AoE box that they're not choosing Juggler first. Anyways, so I start with Juggler. I lose Bernhardt and Lollygess. Surprisingly, Jagger starts with Mariel. Of all the options, Mariel is first. Alright, so Ares and Florentia ban. And I'll play my Ares. So Vincent and Kruger. A lot of people are getting rid of the newer characters, the newer AoE strikers. He plays Licorice. I get rid of Bozo and Sophia. Sophia because I really didn't want to face the Rewind. Rewind is bad news, I have to say. Much more annoying than I thought it would be, having faced it a bunch. So, Himiko. 3 AoEs so far. So I lose Licorice and Florentia now. And he plays Patsier. So, I'll get rid of Liana and Kruger. Right? So now he has just 2 healers, Mariel and Licorice. I play Liana. Hobo Bozo ban, and so I have to choose between Gizarof and Hilda. So what? It still leaves me with 4 AoEs and an act again Liana, which is solid. So he plays Hein, and I will play Gizarof, of course. So, end of the day, I have 4 AoE attackers and Liana for act again and healing. He has healing in Mariel, initially anyways. Licorice for healing, Dark Despair and Mass Heal. And then Patsier is mainly an AoE attacker and single target striker with ignore guard. And Hein is... I don't know what Hein does, really. I guess he can single target or AoE and teleport, right? So, Lobster's here this time because well, Holy, right? Holy characters are bad news against werewolves. So, Lobsters were a must for Juggler. Alright, so he maneuvered a little bit, and this gave me the opportunity to right away launch out my AoE assault. Seeing this. So I saw that he positioned like this, I had moved my Ares up, and now I can move 1, 2, 3, 4 to here to hit both Hein as well as Langrisser with my AoE. Now my one big problem though is my Ares isn't super strong. The enchants, I don't even have 35% attack increase on my Ares. So you see there's 1451 attack. Okay. So Ares goes in. Wind Whispers. Kaboom. Teleport. Boom. And Hein dies, but Langrisser lives. This Langrisser was really hit point heavy, to be fair. 13,134 hit points. So perhaps I shouldn't be surprised it lived. But the Hein died at least. He mass heals. I have my Ares attack Patsier and run away. And he moves back. So the initial turn basically gave me instant kill, turning this into a 5v4. Ares is still relatively deadly, all things considered. Even if I couldn't I was hoping for a double kill to end the fight instantly, but one free kill is nothing to complain about at all, that's for sure. So I got really aggressive now, and I decided to start with Himiko. Okay, attacking. So I launched an AoE at them, and Mario gets to move in, heal up the allies, strike, and then act again to attack Himiko one more time and kill her. So it was able to heal up those two and take out my Himiko right away with his Mario. So I did apply a bit of a mobility debuff on both of them, but it is now 4v4 again. Probably too aggressive there. But I'm gonna continue to try to push and maneuver in. So I really don't know anything about Patsier, and that really surprised me. Okay, first that she was able to attack at 3 range, and second that after the kill she healed up. Even now, I'm not entirely sure where that healing came from. So that was a really big surprise to me, right? That she could move in, attack, and then heal. Let's see. So the 3 range came from having a scepter. Okay. The healing, I'm still not sure where it came from. Because she had to have used Lucid Dream to attack. Oh, it should have been this, Kiss of the Succubus, the passive. After entering battle against a non-female hero, it's not female. The construct is definitely not female. Restores hit points equals to 30% of damage dealt in battle. So there we go. So, having the scepter allowed her to attack at 3 range, and then this healed her up. So, Master of Ice, second AoE. Unfortunately, not enough damage to kill off anyone. Still. And losing my construct has prevented Gizarof from launching an AoE. So now, since everyone lived, Licorice can Dark Despair and heal up her characters and do damage to me. Battle is kinda devolving in some ways, but he's able to keep healthy via Licorice healing. And meanwhile, I'm doing my best to take down Hilda. And there we go. So, finally succeeded. It took Gizarof and Ares with a Gospel buff to take down Hilda after those AoEs. So the AoE assault has kind of failed, but I was able to take down Hilda and force it into a 4v3 situation now. Mariel tries to kill off my Liana. Liana Shrine Maidens keeps her alive. Also, Redeemers not having any kind of damage increase helped a lot, that's for sure. Patsier. Debuffing and injuring my Ares. Liana now falls to Patsier. And I decide to try to Wind Whisper again. Because I saw that Licorice could not heal. 4% this time. So there were two reasons why I tried that. A, because I saw that she had no faction buff anymore. Okay. So I saw she had no faction buff, and I thought that, and I knew that with the damage I was taking from the Patsier debuff of taking fixed damage beforehand, I would not be able to one-shot Licorice, not with damaged soldiers. So I thought that trying the AoE would probably give me a higher chance of killing her. No. It got really close. 907 hit points. That was it. But she lived. Mariel now tries for my Gizarof and fails. Once again, the choice of Redeemers is really hurting him. Yes, Redeemers offer a revive, but the flip side is the damage output is dramatically decreased. If he had any soldier, like Zealots, other than Redeemers, Gizarof was dead. But because he had Redeemers who don't do all that much damage, and Gizarof being Gizarof with 20% increased hit points, he survived that melee strike. Barely, but he survived it. 751 hit points. Faded Curse once again. And now he took out Ares, but in response, Gizarof, who lived, could now summon a Construct. And the Construct could finish off Licorice, forcing it into... Technically, I suppose it's a 2v1, but with Gizarof having a Construct, Gizarof able to... If he dies, he makes more Constructs and so on, and Juggler. Things were very much in my favor now. Here we go. Move the Construct in, launch out the big AoE, have the Construct range attack, Muriel also got debuff of cannot be healed. And trapped in poison. That was an interesting one. It was very, very interesting overall. My AoE assault completely failed in a lot of ways, but I was able to make up for it in other ways, right, to force the win. But yeah, I have to say I was really, really surprised by how tanky his Licorice is. I really haven't met any 13,000 hit point Licorices that could survive my Ares. So that was new. Yeah. And truthfully, that's probably how the character he was relying on to repeatedly get into Langrisser rank, right? If a character that should die doesn't die, like Jagger had multiple times, that can very well win you matches. My Licorice is decent, but I think by comparison, my Licorice has maybe 11,000 hit points. So I'm missing that 2,000 hit points, and that 2,000 hit points is the difference between survival and dying. Taking a quick look at my Licorice enchants. Yeah, reason for me to try to improve my Licorice enchants perhaps, or replace this with one that gives more hit points, right? Instead of using a Twilight Guard, maybe use the Tenyo's headdress, or sorry, Tenyo's robe that gives 10% hit points, for example. I think that's one of the differences. You know, if I had this, you know what? I'm very much considering replacing this. This has 15% hit point enchant and 10% hit points. I might consider replacing that. So that would give me 14% more hit points, for example. And then if I re-roll this for a better hit point roll, that could put me into where he's at for the survival effect. Anyways, you know, various things that you can do to make characters survive and so on. So that was another interesting one. Most of my wins here over and over again are AoE teams. But let's go into the third one. I'll show the Bernhardt one last because that was just ridiculous. So third battle is another AoE win. But that battle was very much on his side, his Licorice survived when it shouldn't. On my side, my Gizarof survived because he chose the wrong soldier. If he had killed off Gizarof, he probably won, realistically. But since he didn't choose, since he chose to bring Redeemers instead of, let's say, Zealots, I won. So, the next battle then is here. Another AoE win. Well, all of my wins have to be AoE because of the team that I'm running. So, Albert's team is one that is much more single target oriented. SP Elwyn, or so actually this is the Infantry Elwyn, not even SP Elwyn. What the heck? Infantry Elwyn. Okay, that's new. Actually, I guess it's a tank buster against Hilda, right? If he has the SP class, but he's using infantry, you can theoretically have 4+4 movement, right? So you use the Reign of Glory plus having Apex boots. You can have 4 movement plus 4 movement. That gives you 8 movement to attack with Sword Soul. That's likely it. Yeah. Another interesting choice is a Cavalry Juggler. So Cavalry Juggler is not a tank. It's an offensive weapon. Right? And I guess that is why he has 2 tanks here. SP Freya and Landieth. Using Juggler as an assault weapon, he has 2 additional tanks. There's Luna, there's Deedlit, single, mobility buffing, single target striking. Clearly a single target strike tier, long story short, right? The only ones whose AoE is surprisingly Shafaniel here. I'm not sure I understand why Shafaniel's in the box. I mean, like, Shafaniel fits the faction, it doesn't fit the box. But it could be like a character limitation, If I were him, I would quickly replace Shafaniel with Sigma, right? SP Sigma. But that assumes he has a 6-star SP Sigma, which not everyone does. So for his box and whatnot, I guess this makes sense overall. So single target oriented, And let's see how the pick ban goes. I lose Hilda right away. Alright. He doesn't even want to face my Hilda. He's just going to face off against my Juggler. So I ban his Rosenseal and play Juggler. So Himiko and Kruger. Playing Lollygest to start. Going for the single target one. So I get rid of his Juggler and his Elwyn. And right away I play Ares. Ares is my counter to Lollygest. So Bozo Liana ban. He plays SP Freya. So I get rid of his Ares and Deedlit now, playing my Hobo. And Florentia, Rosenseal are now banned. So I've lost all my healers. Liana, Florentia, and Rosenseal are all gone. I couldn't care less. I was not planning on playing healer anyways for this particular fight, because I needed Hobo for a faction buff, or Juggler I felt. So he plays Yulia, and I get rid of Liana and Luna now. So he has two kind of combat healers, if you will. And I play my Lollygest. A 4th pick Lollygest. Almost never happens. So Bernhardt, Vincent are now banned. AoE Strikers. He plays Iris. And I now get rid of Rachel and Stefania. So I leave him the choice between Chloe and Landius. On my side, I still have Licorice and Gizarof. And I chose to play Gizarof. So I have no interest in healing. Alright? I'm going for an AoE Assault with Lollygest for teleportation and single target strike skills potentially. And he plays Chloe at last. So overall, I don't have a healer. He has pretty much 4 healers. Lollygest does combat healing. Yulia does combat healing. Iris is a healer. Chloe is a healer. And SP Freya is just a tank. So a pure healing team versus a no healing team is what this kind of turned into. Well, to be fair, I do have kind of healing. Ares can kind of self-heal. Juggler will heal when he takes damage. Sage of the Trees will heal when single target striking. And Lollygest will heal as well, right? So in this situation, Lollygest has to bring her strength in, and she has teleport, and she has Light's Embrace. Alright. Ares is the Wind Whisper version. No. Sage of the Trees is my faction buffer and Wave Whisper. Gizarof is bringing double AoE. So Summon Construct, Ultimate Construct, and Dark Dragon's Breath. And Juggler here, I decided to bring Sacred Beast him, as well as B-Shock. Because I thought B-Shock would probably be fairly important in dealing with Freya. On his side, I think he's doing something similar. Yeah, Strengthen, Teleport, Light's Embrace on his Lollygest. Interestingly enough, he didn't bring a teleport on Iris. I guess he felt Light of Genesis teleport was enough. He chose to have Iris bring her 3C, heal, and mass heal. Chloe has Aurora Ring, Healing Hands, and heal. So fully dedicated healers on both of them. Alright. And he doesn't have really any kind of faction buff combination due to the way the pick ban went. So that's why Light of Genesis is the Strengthen, and so on. And it's Strengthen Yulia to start. Yeah, I would not worry about PvP. PvP is completely endgame. It's so difficult to get into PvP now. Like, if not, I would say like you'd need probably 9 months, I would estimate, to be ready for PvP. And even then, if you were getting into PvP after 9 months, I'd say you could only play AoE teams. Don't even try to play single target teams. So, we had some maneuvering on both sides, and my action here now is to have teleport Ares forward so he's ready to launch out his AoE. Right? So by teleporting him forward, he can move anywhere now to launch out his AoE. And Lollygest strengthens herself, ready to attack. And here we go. Wind Whisper time! Freya applying damage to my Ares. Twice. And surprisingly, once again, my Ares is really lacking. Could not kill anyone here, not even his Lolijess. Which is really pathetic as a side note. So if I just go back a step, look at this. 2,000 hit points survival on the Lolijess. Surviving my Ares. So over and over, I'm seeing that I really need to further increase my Ares' attacking chance. Because he's just not doing enough damage. Like, Lolijess especially is a character that should never ever survive against Ares. Like, never. Especially when Lolijess had no faction buff. Kind of in this situation. But she did live. So, nonetheless, it is what it is. So the initial AoE assault didn't kill anyone. And he was able to heal up. Yeah. But, due to his positioning, I was able to have Ares single target kill. Lolijess anyways. Because after the teleport, since he didn't have Freya activate Rose Lash on the first turn, I could move in, attack this Lolijess, and move back. So, Lolijess down, and a safe retreat for Ares for now. Although it wasn't safe because Yulia got a mobility buff. I could have chosen to keep Ares alive, maybe, but I decided that it wasn't worth it. And so, Yulia quickly takes down my Ares. 1-for-1 trade, I'm okay with that. Next, Hobo Knockback. And Albert activates AoEs. But yeah, if, I do have to say, if my Ares is stronger, Lolijess would have died, and I would have been able to retreat my Ares, and would have been a 5v4 for an easy win. But due to my weak, or relatively weak Ares, it is still 4v4. So, he now starts with Yulia, using Godly Menace on my Sage of the Trees, locking him down. And I retaliate with a Sacred Beast Sim teleportation. He uses the amazing Jean-Paul teleportation to heal Yulia back to full health after that. So he took a lot of damage, but he was able to heal it all up with Iris' 3C. Okay. So be it. I still have my Lolijess. She was able to finish off, or she was able to one-shot this Yulia, who then gets healed up again. So, follow-up strikes. Ultimate Construct. Doing a lot of damage. And now, the key AoE that I brought, the Dark Dragon's Breath on Gizarof, was able to finish off this Yulia. This is also the reason why I use a Mage Gizarof instead of a Demon one. If Gizarof was Demon, I would have done no damage whatsoever to Yulia. Alright? None at all. But due to Gizarof being Mage, the Dark Dragon's Breath did sufficient damage to take her down. So despite the healing constantly to bring her back up to health, Gizarof was able to get the job done. It is now 4v3. He has no damage dealers, really. And he just gives up. Right? With both Yulia and Lolly just dead. Down he goes. So, the absolutely clutch was bringing that second AoE. Right? Yeah, that was the reason. I didn't want the wait time, right? Because if I brought Giz with the faction buff, Giz would have to drop the construct, then faction buff. Then you could only attack on turn 3. I wanted to push in aggressively earlier. So that's why I chose to switch it up there. But yeah, more often you see oldies with the 2 skills. But if you want for a quicker push, you would switch it up this way. So, yeah. Due to not bringing a healer and bringing sufficient AoEs, I was able to overwhelm Albert. That was it. Yeah. Also, Dark Dragon's Breath does extra damage to Holy. Right. That was the other key factor. Knowing that I was facing off against Julia, I knew I needed extra damage. Right. So the fact that Dark Dragon's Breath does extra damage against Holy, that was also another key factor in my choice. And on that note, I should probably change it back right now. I have a terrible tendency to forget to change skills. So that was that battle. Right? So what I'm learning, basically, if I had to summarize what I've been learning, it's mostly ignore my healers, frankly. If I choose to bring a healer, unless I can take advantage of the act again, I'm probably better off bringing another damage dealer than one of my healers. That's what I'm realizing. It does make the battles shorter in a lot of ways because it's either going to succeed or I'm going to get wiped out. But it works out pretty well, as we've seen multiple times so far. Florentia is probably the exception, but that's because Florentia is pretty much a damage dealer, right? Florentia having Resounding Might makes her an AoE attacker as well as a healer. But Liana, I'd rather bring another AoE damage dealer. And in that sense, I'm actually considering maybe removing Liana from this box and throwing in someone else. Yeah, I'm running kind of a rush box without any mobility buffers. But this season really favors rush boxes. That's the thing. Or if not rush boxes, favors having enough assault. So, this next battle will be the Bernhardt overpowered one. Actually, let's save that one for last. It was ridiculous. So let's save that one for last. So, jumping to the next fight then, against Kudri. So, Kudri's box is very, very AoE oriented, except for Diglett. Not really sure why Diglett's in the mix, but she is. But everyone else pretty much has AoEs, right? It's more Empire oriented. It's actually kind of odd because it's like an Empire slash, except Lestel is here, Diglett is here. So it's a lot of former meta heroes, but yeah. I guess there's like a mix of Yeles Legends characters mixed in to a meta box, if you will. But there's Leonhardt as well for his ability to get faction buffed by Bernhardt and launch out AoEs. So, both sides ban Rosenseal. He plays Juggler. I ban Ares and Reen right away, who I feel are the 2 biggest threats. I play my Hilda to start this time around, losing Florentia and Lolijess. I was hoping for a second pick Florentia. Very rarely do I get it, but that was what I was hoping for. Alright, so that's fine. Florentia is banned. So, have to change up my strategy a bit. He plays Kruger. I'll ban his Bernhardt and Bozel here. Alright, getting rid of AoEs. and I play Juggler. So Ares, Liana ban. So all my healers are gone once again. No more Rosenseal, no more Florentian, no more Liana. He plays Liana. So Listel and Gizarof are now banned. So I'm continuing to eliminate all his AoE strikers. And I play Licorice. So Himiko, Kruger ban. He plays Leonhard. Right. And on my side, I get rid of his Florentia and Deedlit now, leaving him the choice between Landius and Chloe. Okay. So not really a good choice at this point to end off with. So this is what I mean once again by like having enough AoEs, right? Because neither of these are AoE strikers. He's ending up with 3 AoEs and Liana. Right? Not really a great situation, at least in my opinion. So now I have Hobo. On my side, I still have 3 AoEs, and all my remaining picks are all AoE attackers too. Right? If we look at this, every single one that remains is an AoE striker. So the difference here is I can choose any of these AoE characters and I'll fit into my box, whereas he doesn't have a choice of a good character at the end. So Vincent Bernhardt ban, he leaves me Gizarof and Bozo. That's a very interesting ban. Bernhardt ban, I can't deny that it's a smart choice, but leaving me these other 2 was interesting. So, because if I were him, I probably would have let Vincent through, right? It would have forced me to bring a faction buff on Licorice. At least that's what I feel. I don't know. Anyways, so he chose to play Landius instead of Chloe, and I choose Bozo. Makes sense. I feel Bozo is a better AoE striker than Gizarof is. Gizarof has the advantage of the construct, but his team was not really a great one to use the construct against. So Bozo with the AoEs and with like sleep and so on would be a better option here. So, end result is Hilda will buff up Licorice, and Hobo will buff up Juggler and Bozo. Right? So Bozo could bring Black Hole, Earthquake, and Sleep. Hobo is bringing his standard. Juggler is bringing his standard. I chose to bring B-Shock here because I felt B-Shock would be important against his double tank, as opposed to Master of Ice, which won't do much against Juggler. And I chose to bring the Steel Mane Werewolves here because he doesn't really have any counter against them. In this particular party, there is no real counter against the Steel Manes. I suppose maybe kind of Templar Knights, but I don't really plan on smashing into the Templar Knights anyways. I don't know. So, dedicated healer, Licorice. Sort of. Hobo can provide combat healing, and Juggler can provide healing against AoEs. The very interesting thing here was he's running like all melee soldiers, right? Lava Titans on Kruger, Templar Knights on Liana. Couldn't really understand it. So, initial maneuvering, I'm hovering back, not moving up. And the reason is simple, Leonhard. So I'm playing it safe, kind of waiting to see what he'll do with his Leonhard. And I place Hobo, or I place Juggler forward to avoid debuffing all my other characters. And also put him in a position where if AoEs are launched, it'll heal up my party. He starts with an Ethereal Fire Machete. I guess he was hoping to stun some of my characters there. Right? Since he hit 2, act again, and then instant transfers. Since he's used his instant transfer, I'm just maneuvering back now. Just avoid this turn where he has access to instant transfer effect. I did apply some debuffs on my characters due to moving Juggler where he was. And I'm okay with that. This time around, I'm completely outmaneuvered, right? So I'm the one playing defense. It's like the opposite of the first match I showed. He's the one being, my opponent's the one on aggression, and I'm the one on defensive. So another thing is, I chose to bring on Hilda Royal Cavalry because I felt that the damage reduction again would be important, and I had a feeling he would bring a full infantry Leonhard. So definitely paying off. You know, he won't be able to attack my Hilda properly. That's for sure. So let's mass seal a bit, right? He launched an AoE. Let's get rid of some of those debuffs and whatnot. And I start things off with my black hole. So this black hole was not meant to kill. I knew Juggler would provide lots of healing. It was meant to debuff like mad. So since he moved in so aggressively, he gave my forward movement Bozal the opportunity to launch at the black hole and debuff his whole team. So I still think 4 movement is better than Swordsmith. At least that's how I feel. I just feel like a 3 movement Bozal really struggles to get into range very often. But I guess it depends on your box, right? If you have mobility buffers to buff up your Bozal's movement with Swordsmith, then he's probably better. Anyways, so yeah. Bozal able to get in. Mass debuff hell. You know, cannot be healed on Kruger, for example. A slow poison and silence on Liana. You know, silence and 5 debuffs on Landius. Cannot be healed debuff on Leonhard. So overall, a very, very nice mix of debuffs. I'm getting hit with retaliation AoEs, but frankly, with Juggler here to keep my characters healthy, I'm okay with that. He did silence my Bozal though, which is annoying. Okay. So yes, while there are some advantages to bringing the speed boots on Bozal, that ability to get silenced is a big detriment. Alright, so AoE again, and it just continues to be a complete lack of damage. The fact is, he has no faction buff for these characters, right? So Kruger with 1000 int is just doing nothing to me. And Juggler without a faction buff, he did do some damage, but just not all that much. You can see all my other characters healed back to full health, despite getting hit by Sacred Beast. So, let's do a quick retaliation. Wave Whisper, knockback, right? He was the knockback because Fusion, Dark Emperor Sword, and he Ethereal Fire Machete'd me, and this was just ouch. Double stun. It has 25% chance of stunning. It stunned both Licorice and Hobo. So, annoying. I attacked there, and it hit Leonhard because Landius got mobility debuffed. So this Landius does not have Overlord's badge, so it had the mobility debuff and couldn't move. Or could not guard. Sorry. Meanwhile, frustratingly, Kruger with the Soul Stealer headdress silenced my Bozal yet again. I just got it removed, and he moved up and had the 50% chance to silence Bozal again. So I have not been able to put anyone to sleep. I have not been able to Earthquake. But his positioning set him up in a way where I could jump Juggler into the center of all of them. So because he left this open spot, I now disabled the guard of his whole team. And the mass heal removes 2 debuffs, right? One because of mass heal, one because of the aura effect, right? The breath of life effect. I have not converted her to demonic events yet. And that double debuff removal was able to awaken my Sage of the Trees. So Sage of the Trees does not have to burn in poison. He was awakened. And I was able to remove the silence debuff on Bozel. Works for me. Juggler tries an attack on a full hit point. Juggler didn't do very much. And so here we go. Single target strike onto Leonhard. Right? Left him with 34 hit points. I'm okay with that. You know what? Juggler got the healing from this Sage of the Trees attack. That was the key thing. And now, Earthquake. Down goes Leonhard, and his characters remain locked down. He's trying to continue to AoE. Juggler continues to heal against it. You know. Sage of the Trees, single target strike, providing healing. Yeah. So I'm managing to maintain my health pretty well. And now, Juggler B-Shock one-shots Kruger. His guard continues to remain down, right? Because they're both continue to be locked down by Juggler. I have an opportunity to take down Liana if I so wish, and so on. And he just gives up. So, in spite of his Juggler and so on, you know, I was able to work around it and still take him down. And yeah, Licorice with Hobo provide very, very sufficient healing, as that battle showed. Right? I may not have a dedicated healer, but the combination of the two really helped. Yeah, the most. I think if I want to use Swordsmith Bozel, I have to bring both Akaya and Werner. Only if I have them both would I switch to a Swordsmith Bozel. But then the question is, how do you fit them in? I mean, I can probably remove Liana for Akaya, for example, but I have to find one more person to remove to throw in Werner. And that's the question. Okay. There's just not really... There just doesn't seem to be a very good character to remove right now. But I don't have Werner built yet anyways, so that may be a change I apply later, but for now, I'm not doing it. But yeah, definitely if I get Werner built up, I'll probably switch Bozel to Swordsmith at that point. Yeah, that'll be interesting. It's hard to say. The fact is, the Tenyo's headdress is just so good. Right? The chance, and in the case of Licorice, you get 2 chances of applying buffs with the Tenyos. So it's really hard to say. Double chance of getting, you know, +3 mobility on one of your allies is big. Alright. So that was that battle. Next. This one was fun, I have to say. This one was really fun. So, Kaladi has a box very similar to mine. The only difference really is he has Mariel in his box and I don't. He brought Mariel, I brought Himiko. I think that's the only difference. Oh, yeah, that is literally the only difference between our boxes. Okay, he has Mariel, I have Himiko. of course, I have a 6-star Mariel too. So I could literally run to his box. But anyways, so both sides ban Rosenseal. I ban his Bernhardt and Lollygess, playing my Hilda. He bans my Florentia and Himiko, playing Mariel. Right? Second pick Mariel. I'm seeing that a lot. Second pick Mariel, that is. So I get rid of Juggler and Florentia, playing Ares. He gets rid of my Lollygess and Kruger, and he plays Liena. So I have a choice to pick Liena as well. And but first, I ban his Licorice and Hobo. Right? And then I play Juggler. So I don't choose to bring Liena. I play Juggler. Alright, he gets rid of my Liena and Licorice. I have no real healers left except for Hobo. Alright, he plays Kruger. I get rid of Gizarof and Bozel. Right, so both faction buffers for Kruger are gone. I play Hobo, as planned. He gets rid of my Bozel and Bernhardt, and he plays a last pick Ares. I'm fine with that. I mean, I couldn't stop it, so... And I play a last pick Gizarof. I had a choice between Gizarof and Vincent, right? But I didn't have anyone to actually buff Vincent, right? There's a reincarnation faction buff. There is a faction buff for Mythical, but there is no Meteor or Empire or Dark faction buffer. So I had to give up on Vincent. Going for Kruger. So another game where I end up with both Hobo and Kruger together. You know, it's just a fact that in my box, probably Hobo and Kruger are amongst my more likely to be played characters. You know, the other characters are much more threatening than these two, at least to most people. Right? So yeah, this is very much expected, roughly what I expect to get. Especially if I early pick Ares and so on, right? So, Evil Overwhelming. This time around, I still brought the Royal Cab. Because I think I just wasn't sure what soldiers to bring. You know, it ended up being a bad choice given that Hilda has Crystal Molders and even Mariel has Amazon Champions. But yeah, so I think I brought it because I wanted to counter Ares, who I expected to bring Noble Charge. Right? And he did. Right? This was a single target strike Ares. So. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really like Mariel as well. As you say, Mariel being both assassin and healer makes her a great second pick. It's just that... Yeah, it's just that I felt she didn't have a role in my AoE box. I'd rather bring another AoE attacker than Mariel. So once again, you know, Gizarof bringing the double AoE, Sage of the Trees being my faction buffer, right? I was willing to take the hit from Ares. That's more or less it. Yes, I know I can drop down Light Array and then, you know, block Ares' movement or whatever. I'd rather just have a more convenient, you know, combat and be able to properly use my Hobo as a single target damage dealer and healer. Slow maneuvering. I'm expecting Ares. I move up like this because I know Ares can't move all the way into here to attack anyone. So he doesn't have, due to where he was placed, he doesn't have enough mobility to attack any of my characters in the back. But then he got that, the mobility buff, right? So I had to move Juggler up to guard my two. At this point, Ares could single target kill my Juggler if he so wished, right? Noble Charge should definitely kill my Juggler. But he didn't take it. So... And instead he chose to act again Mario. And what I did here was first I launched that out to block Ares, right? To terrain block Ares. And second, by moving Hobo up like this, I could protect my Gizarof. That way Mario can still attack, but Mario cannot kill my Ares or my Gizarof. Even if she wrapped around here, she does not have enough mobility to go all the way around and kill my characters. Oh. Ares actually had enough mobility to attack. So, due to the +3 movement, I had miscounted. But... So I had misplanned there. That was my original thought, to protect my characters and keep Ares out of the way. But the +3 mobility was so much movement that he could just move through all these dazzling light tiles and attack anyways. And that teleported all my characters around. Well, since I can't keep my characters alive, I'll have my Ares kill his Ares. And then move back. So Mario now gets the double strike. The first strike, due to activation of her armor, it was not enough damage to kill Hilda. Right? So God King's, or sorry, Holy Damnation direct hit with the 1.8 times damage due to having, the damage decrease for the initial strike and then triggering another 20% damage reduction. Mario lived through that. Alright. But Mario gets her second attack and it is used to take down my Ares. I start off with a Hobo single target strike to heal up my characters a bit. And Mario is able to heal up and attack. Gizarof once again showing how tanky he is. Right? Mario tried to kill, Mario failed to kill Gizarof. This was a damaged Gizarof, but it survived the attack from this Mario. Of course, Mario was damaged too. But surviving is surviving. Construct attack. Right. Ultimate construct. To grow bigger. Construct second attack. And unfortunately, Mario lived with 1,350 hit points. And she's in a place where she can get healed by Liana. So that was not expected. That's for sure. Suddenly not exactly a great situation. My thought was that Mario would be dead here. And I would be facing 3 against 4. Not the case at all. Continue to use Sage of Victories for combat healing. Ever Dark Abyss. Juggler provides more healing. Suddenly all my characters are nearly healthy again, right? Gizarof was nearly dead before, now he's very healthy. Hilda is decently healthy now. I got a bunch of debuffs, but so be it. Sacred Beast him jump. And he was able to knock my juggler back. Big miscalculation there. Alright. Dark Dragon's Breath. Once again, being clutch. Right? The Dark Dragon's Breath killed off his Mario. So, once again, the extra damage against holy characters. You know? With that, down goes Mariel. It ended up being 4v3 again. But now some problems come up. First, the soldier choice is now really biting me because the royal calves can do nothing to Hilda. Second, due to the way he positioned, Juggler is now trapped in poison. Okay. And he starts with an acid burn. So, Juggler is totally dead. He's holding back, right? He has to hold back pretty much to protect his Liana. And I know my Juggler is... My Juggler tries to attack and dies. Now this was interesting because I did no damage to the Shrine Maidens. Alright. With a full health Juggler buffed, launching out Beast Shock, I could do basically nothing to Liana because it was werewolves, demons against holy. So I just did some damage to the Shrine Maidens, that was it. Nothing even reached Liana. Alright. Now he's continuing to hold back. And I'm just trying to faction buff and keep my characters alive. Act again on his side. And now I was hoping he would do this, and he did. What happened is I was able to force a surround where he's stuck in poison. Because he was playing so defensively and holding back, and had to keep my Juggler, you know, to burn in poison, he's now in a situation where he can't move out of this zone. So I was able to surround him successfully. As long as my characters don't die, he's dead. And I actually have 4 characters due to having the construct as well. So it's no longer a game of me trying to kill him anymore, because I have no chance of killing him. It's a game of me poisoning him to death. He launched out an AoE. Keeps launching out AoEs with Kruger. Hobo, I think Hobo died but revived, and now he only has 2 characters left because Liana will burn in poison very soon. So, activating guard skill. Hilda tanking the hits and reviving. Ending turn. Hilda tanking another hit. Hilda taking a 3rd hit. There's the burn. Hilda dies permanently. Continuing to occupy all those slots to prevent him from moving out. Ultimate Construct doing damage. And we see that Kruger is dead as well. So Hilda can get out, but Kruger's gone. Kruger gets to launch out his last AoE. And now it's just Hilda, who just leaves. So by successfully blocking him like this, I was able to pull off that victory. Even now, I'm not sure if that suicide jump with Juggler was a good idea or not. I really don't know. On one hand, it kept him that far back. On the other hand, yeah. It basically turned into a positioning battle, trapping him in poison. You know, grabbing the win. And then, so, we move on to those last 2 matches that I wanted to cover. both of these matches are really good. So why don't I go over the Bernhardt one first and then save this very, very ridiculously close win for last. The Bernhardt one was just ridiculous. You know, I got smoked by Bernhardt last week. Right? Bernhardt killed off 3 different characters of mine to win my opponent the match. This time around, so I realized just how good Bernhardt is, and I've been trying to, pick Bernhardt early when I can. So Rosenseal banned on both sides. I start with Hilda again. I lose Himiko and Kruger right away. Right? He plays Liana. I'm just like, what? Liana first pick? What's going on? Right? But I looked at this and I realized he has multiple tanks. There is Albedo, there is Landius, there is Juggler. Right? So he has 3 tanks. So he decided to pick a healer first between Liana and Wilder. Fair enough. Okay. So I'll get rid of Juggler and Sigma, forcing him to have to pick a tank if he wants a tank. And I play Florentia. So, on my side, Vincent and Ares are now banned. And he plays Landius. This is why I've been second picking Ares so often. Because I know if I pick someone else, Ares will get banned. Most of the time, that's the case. So, he plays Landius as his tank. So I'll get rid of Reen and Wataru. Wataru because I just haven't faced him and I don't want to face him. Reen because his debuffs are just hell. So, I play Juggler. So I got my double tank again. Hilda with Juggler, with Florentia this time. And now Lollygest and Licorice are gone. So, opponent plays Bozel. Alright. So, I'll get rid of his Gizarof and Hobo. Playing my Bernhardt, a 4th pick one. Actually, really, really late. So, Liana and Hobo are banned. And on his side, he plays Diedlit. So, I have a choice between Bozel and Kruger. That's an obvious choice, right? So, I get rid of his Yusuke and his Albedo. Not sure why I got rid of Albedo, looking at this now. Yusuke made sense. I probably should have gotten rid of Ares. I don't know. Anyways, I play Bozel. As I said, that was an obvious choice. And he plays Wilder instead of Ares. I was actually... Oh, I remember now. I was willing to face Ares. I remember now. Yeah, I felt that if he played Ares and attacked me, that would be like an easy kill for me to deal with. Whereas facing off against Yusuke was a bad idea, and I felt Albedo, I didn't want to face double tank. Right? I felt Juggler could lock down Landius, and then yeah. So my thought was I could easily take down Ares. Albedo and Yusuke were more annoying. Instead, he played Wilder, which I didn't expect. So he ended up with Liana and Wilder for healers, Diedlit, which has like single target strike and healing, and Bozel. So on my side, once again, Hilda does not need a faction buff. Since Bernhardt has it. So Bernhardt is buffing up Hilda and Florentia. Juggler has no faction buff. Bozel has no faction buff. On his side, I guess Landius buffs up Wilder. Diedlit and Liana both have Gospel. And then Bozel is bringing Black Hole, Sleep, and Seal. While my Bozel has the same thing. Both of us have 4 movement Bozels, so that means on both sides, we can get silenced. And his Wilder choice was actually pretty smart with the tactical retreat. So that can very well stop my Sacred Beast Hymn lockdown if he tactical retreats back with Wilder. So not bringing high stakes, because he knows if he high stakes I can kill Wilder right away. Instead, it was a mass attack, tactical retreat, and mass heal. I'm not sure I understood the mass attack. Regroup would have been smarter. But regardless, that's what he chose. So I'm just kind of maneuvering around, spreading out my characters to avoid getting hit by the AoEs too much. especially because I moved Hilda up, and Hilda moving up, facing off against the 4 movement Bozel, meant that she could get hit by the black hole. So because of that, I'm spreading out to avoid the AoE if he decides to launch one. So just kind of spreading out, maneuvering forward on all sides, not leaving him too much room to AoE me. I am leaving him the opportunity to attack with Deedlit on my Florentia if he so wishes. You know, there is that threat for him, because Deedlit got the breeze. Yeah. But I felt that, you know, if he killed my Florentia, so be it. I felt it was kind of worth it to take down the Deedlit. But he's not taking the action, and instead chose to put my juggler to sleep. Clocked it, which was annoying. So be it. I'll Resounding Might. And I sudden strike my Hilda here, so that I can move Hilda to guard Juggler. So he acted again, Landius, to guard his Bozel. And I now get the opportunity to put Bozel to sleep. So I actually didn't realize this until now, or until after this battle, but for some reason, looking at this now, I don't seem to have gotten the guard. Right? It's supposed to increase the guard range to 2. But I'm looking at this, and it doesn't look like Hilda got the 2 guard range. So that was weird. I think it's because the other guard overwrote this one. Right? That is, the Noble Spear 2 guard range didn't get refreshed for some reason. Right? Takes attacks for friendly units from 2 blocks. I thought if I did that, it would refresh. Right? But I didn't get anything. So I have no 2 guard range at all. So that was a really odd thing that I just faced. I guess in order to use this properly, you have to Dominating Formation first, then Crimson Command, rather than the other way around. Yeah, just odd. So it didn't replace, or it didn't update the guard skill here. Not sure why that's the case. I actually don't know why. But it didn't update, and so Deedlit got the opportunity to strike my asleep juggler. But it doesn't do enough damage to kill off a Last Rites juggler. Would have died if the Last Rites was broken. But Last Rites was not broken due to Florentia's Resounding Might. So juggler lived, if barely. And I have to quickly move up Florentia to guard them both. So, healing up juggler as best as I can. He's guarding. And here, Deedlit chose to attack Bernhardt, and look at that. Let's replay that one more time, shall we? So this is a Deedlit who did not have a faction buff up, or did not have gospel up. So it did have 1,427 int and 740 defense, and it chose to attack my Bernhardt, who does have a faction buff. Right? And Bernhardt has Hegemony, which will decrease the enemy's defense by 20% and dispel a buff. So currently Deedlit has 740 defense, it moves in to attack, buff removed, it dropped down to 443. It dropped down to 443 defense, so it looked like I removed this buff. The int and defense increased by 24%. That's what it looks like was removed. So when it attacked, the end result is Deedlit dies. Bernhardt was just like, huh? You're dead. No, he didn't even take any damage. Just the steel mains were damaged. So talk about ridiculous, right? Totally trolled. That's basically it. Melee attack and he kills himself. So be it. Let's launch out a AoE, Black Hole. And that was able to debuff them a lot. He didn't seem to have Gospels up. Like, I mean, so as a result, right? Valor got cannot be healed. Liena got cannot move and poisoned. Bozol got cannot be healed and silenced. Landius got a whole bunch of debuffs as well. He does the mass heal. And I respawned with, of course, Sacred Beast him. Jump over. Bozol is killed because he couldn't heal. Right? He got the cannot be healed debuff. So the mass heal did nothing. And thus Bozol was taken down. Leaving just a cannot move Landius, Liena, and Valor. Against my full party of 5. So Bernhardt killing that Deedlit was just super trollish, I have to say. But other than that, you know, everything went as the way I wanted it to. And he just had to give up. Bernhardt seriously OP, I have to say. Yeah, about Liena being used to fight against debuffs. Yeah, that is her primary role after all, I suppose. Between Act Again, Gospel, and the debuff removal, you can also summon Sky Archer to remove debuffs. So she is a fairly versatile healer, I won't deny that. But yeah. That one was just... That Bernhardt was just silly though. I still can't believe it. Just someone melee attacking Bernhardt and just dying like that. I never really got the chance to use Bernhardt properly, right? He just melee attacked. Well, he just got attacked and killed someone. So that was that battle. And then the last one would be this close win against Deprive to cover. And this one was pretty fun too. So, Deprive has Reen in the box, SP Elwyn. This is very, very meta in a lot of ways. There are a few non-metas like Zerda, a demon Zerda too, interestingly enough. Yulia is here. I'm not going to say Yulia is not meta, because with SP Elwyn, using Yulia is a pretty smart choice. And yeah, there is multiple healers. Again, I'm seeing Liena, Rosenseal, Florentia, and Sophia. The 4 healer combo, I'm seeing that a lot. I'm kind of surprised. Yeah, Bernhardt's insane. You know, the fact he he decreases enemies' defense by like 35% too, right? Between his talent, his aura, and his hegemony debuff. So he's decreasing enemy defense by like 35%. He's getting like 38% increased damage. And he has hegemony that, dispels a buff off the enemy as well. The combination just makes him ridiculously powerful. So overall though, Deprive is running like, a lot of healers with a lot of flexibility. More of a single target box here, although there is Reen, there is Langrisser in there. But overall, this is clearly, and there is Himiko. But overall, this is clearly a box where he's using the AoEs to weaken the enemy, and then he'll finish it off with a single target strike. On the whole, that's what this box should be doing. Both sides ban Rosensteel as always. I play my Juggler to start. Vincent and Kruger ban. He plays Hilda. And I ban Bernhardt and Juggler right off. On my side, I play Ares. So fairly standard pick for me so far. 2 AoE strikers. I lose Liana and Lolly just now. Opponent plays Reen. And I get rid of his Florentia and Liana. So that leaves him with just Sophia now as the remaining soul healer. I play Himiko. So 3 AoE strikers now. Licorice and Bozo banned. Enemy plays Sophia. And he plays... Sorry, I ban Licorice and Yulia now. And then I choose to play Hobo. So Florentia, Gizarof ban at the end, leaving me Bernhardt or Hilda. Opponent plays Bozo. I'm clearly going to play Bernhardt last. I'm going to ban his Ares and SP Elwyn first before playing my Bernhardt, leaving him a choice between Zerida and Himiko. Opponent chooses Zerida. And we begin. That was an interesting choice. I would have picked Himiko if I was him. Right? Then I would have had Bozo, Reen, and Himiko. Right? With Sophia for rewind, and then Hilda as a tank. But he chose Zerida. On my side, I pretty much just have a pure AoE attack team, right? Bernhardt has his Rupture Sword Dance faction buff. Ares is Wind Whisper. Sacred Trees has Wave Whisper and faction buff. Juggler is bringing the Sacred Beast him. I chose to bring Beast Shock. That was a mistake. I should have brought the other AoE. Master of Ice. That was just me not changing it up. And Himiko has her AoEs. So yeah. 5 big AoEs. Attackers. Only thing that would have made it better was if I had Master of Ice. So the initial steps of maneuvering forward as always. And opponent starts with Heart of Alhazard. Alright. So right away, I have Ares jump in with Wind Whisper. Might have been a mistake, looking at this in hindsight. But I jump in, throw out some damage, get quite a bit in. My helmet has the debuff of applying cannot be healed on one of the enemies, right? Or a 50% chance of doing so. It unfortunately hit Hilda, right? And Hilda has Blood Pact, so she didn't get any effect. So Sophia Mass Heal just restores most of that damage. So Hilda is currently activated guards first, so both Reen and Bozo are being guarded. But that just means that Ares can take down that Zerida right away. That's why I was saying that I might have made a mistake there. If I had moved Ares up, for example, then attacked, and then retreated, that might have been a better choice. Oh well. Nonetheless, because I did the teleport, Reen gets to launch out his AoE right away on my party. And what was ridiculous here is I just got the absolute worst possible debuffs on my whole team. Hobo got silenced. Okay. Himiko got silenced. Alright. Juggler got mobility debuffed by 2. Bernhardt got mobility debuffed by 2 as well. And both Himiko and Bernhardt both have heal reversal on them. So just an absolutely terrible set of debuffs from Reen. Just every single debuff I got from Reen here just now were deadly ones. Silences and heal reversals and mobility debuffs on key characters, right? If Juggler could move 3 and teleport forward, that's what I needed, for example. But now Juggler can't move. So, really, really screwed by the debuffs. So I have to move Bernhardt back a bit to avoid Bozo, right? This is another Swordsmith Bozo. So it has 3 movement, which really kept it from attacking me. If it had 4 movement, it could have moved here and then hit my whole team again. But it didn't. So the Swordsmith costing him. So I'm just shifting characters as best as I can. And then he freaking gets this, right? He gets a mobility buff on his Bozo. Drove me crazy. So, Bozo got a mobility buff for +3, so he could have charged in to AoE me. So I had no choice but to offer Himiko as a sacrifice. I sent Himiko in to single target strike. And pretty much the way I expected, Bozo decided to sleep my Himiko. So that mobility buff on Bozo is just forcing my hand now. So I'm just doing what I can. Jumping in with Juggler. And I get hit by Bernhardt's Black Hole. So lots of debuffs that time, right? But at least Hobo is out of range. Heal reversal damaged both Himiko and Bernhardt, and looking at this, Bernhardt is dead due to burn. Right? After the heal reversal and everything, Bernhardt is screwed. So Bernhardt charges in. Sword Dance finishes off Bernhardt, finishes off Bozo, and then he dies. Green launched out the Fatal Arc Slash. Heal reversal kills off my Himiko. Juggler does a Sacred Beast Shock to take down the first life of Hilda. But it's now looking quite rough. I do have... So, Reen finishes off Juggler. It's now 3 against 2. He has a tank in Hilda, Sophia as a healer, and Reen as a damage dealer. I just have Hobo and Ares. I launched a Wave Whisper, just because, but he just quickly uses Rewind to refresh and heal up. So, Ares, Wind Whisper jump. Very much hoping to see Sophia die here, and it didn't happen. My Ares sucks! But you know what? Sophia has 671 defense due to having plus 30% defense from her talent. So it kind of makes sense that Sophia is very hard to kill. But yeah, Ares, Wind Whisper, do damage. Sophia just laughs it off. And thanks the most. So meanwhile, I'm just trying to keep my characters alive and well. Fatal Arc Slash is used on my Ares. After the rewind, right? He can use his skills again. So 2 debuffs, slow and reduced attack. Fine. At least it's not heal reversal or anything like that. Sage of the Trees attacks. And then gets hit by... Oh, and then Ares gets hit by the next AoE. Okay. So this time around, it was more mobility debuffs. Burn, burn. You know, this is more normal. No heal reversal or anything like that, I suppose. And he is just keeping his characters alive and well. So, Ares moves back to a safe tile. Hobo attacks and heals up Ares a bit. And Reen activates his Spirit Unification. Next, Sage of the Trees attacks, heal, and he basically heals up to full. So, interesting thing there, right? First, from this damage Sage of the Trees, due to his attack in Crystal Warlocks, I was basically able to heal up to nearly full health after that attack. So now, with this positioning, Ares still had a safe spot to position where Reen can't attack him. Due to Reen's mobility not offering enough movement. So Ares and Hobo are still alive and well. And Sophia, being fully concentrated on healing, does no damage at all. So Sage of the Trees has not died yet. Okay. Which is important because I cannot use passive skills on me. If I had died, Sage of the Trees was dead. So now, Ares tries a melee attack on Reen and fails miserably. And Sophia first heals Reen. Right? Had to do that. If Reen attacked, he would have probably died against my Sage of the Trees. So he had no choice but to heal. So, next, I think I made a mistake. I casted, had Sage of the Trees faction buff himself, and by faction buffing himself, because I haven't dealt damage this turn, I get to dispel a buff, a debuff. So I dispelled the the disabled passives part. So now Sage of the Trees can revive. Okay, so that's why I faction buffed there instead of attacking. So Reen melee attacks Sage of the Trees. He probably thought he could kill me. Instead, I get to revive. Alright. And that was a big mistake on his part. Huge mistake. If he had Reen attack my Ares, then Hilda could step onto the tile where Reen was. And then suddenly it would be 2v1. But I'm pretty sure he thought he could permanently kill off my Sage of the Trees, and that's why he attacked, and instead he couldn't. So suddenly, Hilda is dead. So Hilda attacks Ares, they both die. So now it's Sage of the Trees against Reen. And I can't heal, but I get to act first. So Sage of the Trees will attack first and finish off Reen for the win. So ridiculously close. To be fair, for like the last 8 turns or so, he had 15 seconds a turn. And I was doing my turns as fast as I could, so I didn't leave him any time to think at all. So he had no time between his decisions. Like, he probably didn't have time to even check that my debuff was removed. So, as a result, Sage of the Trees attacks, finishes off Reen, and I get to win. Ridiculously close victory, but a win is a win. So, that battle literally came down to the wire. Like, if Sage of the Trees... Yeah, if Hobo's faction buff did not remove debuffs, I was dead, right? Because I had disabled passive on me. But because it did, you know, if I had attacked with Sage of the Trees, it would have tried to heal Ares, and Ares would have died. So I was forced to faction buff in very many ways. But due to the faction buff removing a debuff, that completely 100% saved me for that match. Without that effect, I lost to Reen. But yeah, overall, bunch of interesting matches, I feel. And all of these matches, I really never brought a dedicated healer, right? I guess, except for Florentia. I never brought Liana, never got to bring Rosenseal, you know. The healers I was using was Hobo and Licorice mainly. You know, when I could bring Florentia, I did, but it was pretty rare that people let me bring Florentia. But this kind of strategy does work, and it got me to Langrisser rank, so, you know, it's a very, very different playstyle from the previous season, that's for sure. But hey, it's been interesting. So that is it for this video. Now that I'm in Langrisser rank, I probably won't be playing too much. Currently, I'm at 1949 points, and in terms of ranking, that's 109. So near the top 100 or so. You know, I'll do one battle a week probably. Try to stay in the top 256 so I can make it to the playoffs, of course. But that's pretty much all I'm going to do at this point. So that's it for this stream. Review of all my matches this week. You know, they were all about using this AoE team, and it was pretty successful. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found these videos interesting. And on that note, Nitro out.